I'd rather delegate the things that I don't want to do or that I think are, you know, that can be delegated, right? There's things that can't be, but the things that can be delegated, and I can focus in on the thing, hone in on the things that I do best. I'm wonderful at conversions, okay? But I hate the mundane. I hate getting on the phone and running through 1,000 numbers before I get 20 to talk to me, you know? And then from that, how many of them are actually serious? How many of them are going to move on and move forward? So that's the type of stuff that, I don't want to do. So I delegate it, right? The whole purpose of the ISA is not to do my job, not to get on the phone and convince them to, whatever, buy or something, but to filter those thousands of numbers, right, into ones that will, first of all, answer.
All right, folks. So we are back here in the group trying to provide some value to you guys. We got a great one here today, right? This is Manar Siba. He is a successful real estate agent in the suburbs of beautiful Detroit, Michigan. And he did something really interesting over the last, 45, 60 days. He jumped into our program, Build Your ISA, and really went all in. I want to go into detail, kind of the steps that Manar did, because I think he checked all the boxes. He did a lot of things right, followed a lot of really, really good advice, and executed, took action, right? Did a really good result. But, let's start at the beginning, right? So Manar, can you please introduce yourself here to the audience? Tell us a little bit about your career. How'd you get into real estate? And where's your business at right now? And why did you choose adding an ISA to your team? Go for it.
All right. Well, thanks, Gustavo. I really appreciate you having me on board. Hi, everyone. My name is Manar Siba. I'm a real estate broker and agent currently. We own our own real estate company in downtown Rochester, Michigan. And I started in the career in 2014 or so, just as a regular agent. And as a regular agent, didn't know what I was doing, of course, like everybody else. Got in the industry, got on with Century 21 Town and Country. Over here is a big company, very well known. Got partnered up with the right mentor. I think that kind of started off, with my career with the right mentor. Still, till this day, work with him, and his name is Andrew Smith. If you guys have ever heard of him, he's a wonderful coach, friend, broker, and I really owe him a lot because he kind of held me tight to some of the things that I need to do as an agent, as a beginner, and he taught me a lot until this day. I mean, he continues to train me.
Was he a broker? Was he a broker in your office, another agent, or
he was an associate broker for the company that I work with, that I chose to work with. I interviewed, actually. Most people walk into a brokerage office and they're interviewing the office, or I'm sorry, they're being interviewed. I was actually interviewing the office. I was thinking to myself, well, I'm out here making you guys money. So what are you going to do for me? So, but Andrew was, he was one in a million. He really kind of, like I said, held my feet to the fire, was able to kind of train and in a kind way and a very, very helpful way, push me along, even when I had doubts. But one of the things that I did, so I started with Century 21. I worked for them for about four and a half years. Moved on to their sister company, which is Coldwell Banker, and worked there for nearly 4.5 years as well. And I decided to open up our own brokerage. Now, my wife is an agent as well. So we're a small team, but we're growing. It's been about a year and a half, almost 2 years now that we've been in the company, and we're thriving. We're doing well. But I started with prospecting and cold calling. I started with a lot of the things that I did was, I guess my biggest fear was not knowing, right? Not knowing what to do, not knowing how to do it. And so I never really everybody tells you to start with your sphere of influence. I never did. I kind of pushed that aside. I said, let me focus on people that don't know me. Right. So if I screw up, hopefully they don't know the difference. And it worked. It worked because it helped me get in front of people I otherwise would have never got in front of. And it helped me perfect and hone in on my skills. and especially the cold prospecting skills. And those are key. The reason why I tell you all this, kind of give you some background, is because when you say, you did all the right things, it took me years to learn those right things and implement them myself before I hired somebody and I delegated that work. Right. So I did do what my ISA is doing today.
100%, Manar. And I think, we've had a lot of testimonials, a lot of folks having success with this outbound prospecting model. I can't think of one that is doing a great job, just killing it, that wasn't on the phone on their own first, right?
Absolutely.
They figured that part out. They understood it. They got it, because it's very difficult. And we're talking about cold calling, pretty much impossible to delegate that out if you don't do it on your own. I again, maybe when you're at a higher level, you're a broker, you got a massive team, you add that maybe. But as a when you're in the trenches, you're an agent, right? In the front lines, it's not something you can just kind of hire out. And I'm going to give Gus my credit card, and I don't have to cold call, right? Someone will cold call for me. It doesn't work, right? That's just not the way this works. You've got to know kind of what you're doing. You kind of know you have to have a successful system to add leverage to the system, right? Because otherwise, what can happen, and unfortunately, I've seen this happen. I've seen it play out with me or with other companies. Folks come in and something's not working, and they don't know if it's the offer, if it's the script, if it's the ISA, if it's the data, if it's that. There's too many things to fix, and rarely do people have the patience to go through each one of those possible issues and change them. It is a fixable system. Very few people have the patience to work through it and see what works, because they didn't do it on their own. They didn't do that work, ahead of time. So I love what I'm hearing. And when you talk about prospecting, Manar, we're just start with the expired, FISBO, Circle. What did you do when you were doing it solo?
Door knocking.
There you go. One of my favorites.
Door knocking.
One of my favorites.
I was, I wasn't good on the phone in the beginning. I was not good on the phone. I was better face to face.
Love it.
And I realized that very early on. And so my biggest thing was actually door knocking and open houses, right? Getting in front of people, getting them used to my demeanor, getting them used to my talk. When you're looking at somebody, it's different than talking to them, right? That's why I teach my ISA. I say, although they can't see you, they can't see you on the phone, but put a smile on. Put yourself in front of a mirror and put a smile on your face, because that tonality they can hear, and they're picturing you. They don't know what your face is, but they're picturing you on the other side. And so I was good at the reverse of that. I was good at being in front of somebody, putting a smile on, and getting human with them, becoming human with them, right? Just interacting like normal human being. And when you're personable and likable, people want to work with you. And so I was good at that. So I started with door knocking, believe it or not, and I did open houses in the beginning. Then I was never into telemarketing ever, because this is essentially telemarketing.
And I love the sincerity, Manar, because a lot of people assume you got to be some kind of phone call master to do it.
I don't like it.
Like,
in fact,
there's no, and I've had this conversation with Coach Brandon Morenin and Coach Johnny Smith, friends of the group, clients, love those guys.
Brandon's awesome.
They agree. Yeah, they're like I don't like going to the gym either. That's what they say. I don't like going to the gym. It's still good for me.
But I like what it does to me.
Yeah, I like the result. I like the results.
Exactly.
And you
become like the work.
You kind of tolerate the process, right? You tolerate the process, and you do it for the result. I love that. I want to jump on that, because that is so true, and I appreciate the candor, man. Like, hey,
absolutely.
You never got into the business hoping you would become a cold caller. Oh, I want to do that, right?
Never thought it was part of the business. In fact, it's funny. My wife talks about this all the time. She's like, I didn't think that the business was going to be like this. See, now as people get big, right? Really big. And I'm not talking about, just a few transactions. I'm talking about hundreds of transactions per year. Like, as larger teams grow, right? They become like the rainmaker, right? You have to like put out this advertisement. They have to kind of bring in the flow, and then have the team work that flow, right? And it's funny, because I never thought of myself when I got into this industry that I would be, for instance, on a billboard or advertising myself, right? I never really looked at the position as a self type of advertisement, but it's really
100%.
You're advertising yourself, you're advertising the way you do business, your quality of business, And that's how you're getting, the prospective buyers and sellers to work with you. But we laugh about this, my wife and I, because we never really thought about ourselves like this. But as we got into the
100%.
industry and start realizing what the industry is about, we realized that we have to do certain things in order to make it in the industry. And I'll just tell you, I'll put this little plug in, and most people don't know this about me. I'm not big on social media. I'm the worst guy on social media, man. I'm a millennial, right? I'm 34, and I just got social media like 2 years ago. And I've been in the industry for how many years?
That's
And people,
awesome.
when I used to say I don't have, my clients used to look at me like, "Are you crazy? First of all, you're in a relationship business.
Yeah.
And second of all, like, what do you do?" But I seen it, and mostly I didn't like it because I'm not really out and open and like to share my whole life with everybody. I'm that type of person. My wife is that way too. I think we're blessed in that regards. But I seen a need for it, and that's why I implemented work-based strategies for social media. Now we have it. Now the brokerage has it, and it's growing, but we never seen ourselves in that. So
you use
it's
it
hard
as
for us to do that.
a work tool. You see it
Yeah,
as a means to an end.
a necessity for work, and I can do it alongside everybody else, right? But I don't have to do it like everybody else.
100%.
Choose the way I want to do it. The same goes with this strategy that we're doing right now with an ISA. I can get on the phone. I can block, just like I block out time to go to the gym. I can block out time to get on the phone. I just know my strengths and know my weaknesses. My strength is all this other stuff. My weakness is the mundane of being on the phone. I know I need to do it. I know it's necessary. I'd rather, and I learned this a few years ago, and it's kind of changed my philosophy on how I run my business. I'd rather delegate the things that I don't want to do, or that I think are, that can be delegated, right? There's things that can't be, but the things that can be delegated, and I can focus in on hone in on the things that I do best. I'm wonderful at conversions. Okay. But I hate the mundane. I hate getting on the phone and running through 1,000 numbers before I get 20 to talk to me, and then from that, how many of them are actually serious? How many of them are going to move on and move forward? So that's the type of stuff that, I don't want to do. So I delegate it, right? The whole purpose of the ISA is not to do my job, not to get on the phone and convince them to, whatever, buy or something, but to filter those thousands of numbers, right, into ones that will, first of all, answer.
100%.
First of all, answer the phone, right? That's all time.
Yep.
And that's the beauty about what you did. I really like to hand it to you about coming up with this thought of your business to put something together like this that will allow us here in the US to be able to delegate this type of work for a fraction of the cost that it would otherwise be had I had somebody sitting right here doing it, right? It's a fraction of the cost, which allows me to be able to delegate it, right? And because of that, that's time saved. My money, my hourly is worth, if I put together my hourly, it's worth way more than what I'm paying out.
100%.
Right? So delegate the stuff that you can, and then work on the stuff that you're good at. I'm great at conversion, right? If I get somebody on the phone with me and they're interested, now I can convert this. Now I can, move on and do what I need to do best, which take that, convert it, meet with them, scope them out, vest them in a way before I go and waste more time, right?
I love it. No, 100%, because it's a situation, Manar, of you just need more people to talk to, right?
Yeah.
You don't need more numbers to dial. There's plenty of numbers out there, and there's plenty of dialers and all this. You need more people to talk to
man.
that
Like
are
you wouldn't believe.
responsive and are talking to. And and that's what I tell folks. When I tell folks, what is a qualified nurture? Because I think that is like you've implemented. It's the highest and best use of an ISA, of leveraged lead generation. Leveraged lead generation gives you someone that confirmed homeowner. That's huge. Confirmed homeowner, confirmed phone number that they pick up, right? Huge, huge. And there's something about them. They've got some curiosity or motivation to sell, to find out how much a home is worth, what's going on in the market. That is all you need. That is all you need if you've got the skills to take that person to the finish line, right? Because I think a mistake people can make with this ISA model is that I'm gonna, give my ISA a dialer, give them a bunch of lists, and I'm just gonna go out and take these listings. I'm going to go attend these listing appointments. Let me just go and I'm going to take the paperwork and sign it. And I
You'll
would tell
never get
folks,
there if the thing is not right.
100%. And, you know, I go,
The system
I
doesn't
don't even
work.
think, yeah, that's like, I only did
Just
that with
pay
some
out,
of
pay
my
out, pay out, and never
referrals.
get anywhere.
There we go, right? Yeah, I only did that with maybe a few people in my database, let alone a cold lead that another 50 agents have tried to call this last year, right? So it's setting that right expectation and having that mindset. But let's jump into the details, Manar. So you join, you hear about us. You're like, hey, you want to add? Had you ever had a caller work for you before? An ISA assistant making calls for you? Anybody?
We've tried other companies. We've tried, you know, so like I said, I've always known that this needs to be a process of ours. This needs to happen, whether it's myself or someone else I delegate the work. So I was doing it even as I was looking for somebody, I was doing it myself, but I wasn't, it's consistency, right? If you've got somebody 9 to 5, it's more consistent than you come in and you say, okay, I can dedicate an hour or two here. I can do that there. It's the consistency that really brings home the bacon. So long story short, we did hire an ISA out in the Philippines. Didn't work so well, right? And as you know, and you've preached about this, there's a difference between somebody outside the company or outside the United States trying to hone in on the thoughts and the processes of you know, Americans, right? If you've never lived here, you can't pick up the sarcasm like you talked about, right? You can't
100%.
relate in a different way. Your language barrier is more of a language barrier, even though maybe you've gone to school in the Philippines and learned basic English. It's not the same English that we use. We use, you know, slang. We use all kinds of things to help better relate, right? We're in a relationship business. So if you're not likable, you're not relatable, you're not going to get somebody to talk to you. So essentially you need to have all those kind of mixed in already in order to be somewhat to be on the path to success. Okay, not successful, but on the path to success. You need to already have that, right? And so that's what we received with your company. That was eye-opening, and that was breathtaking, really, because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for that out in the Philippines and elsewhere, but never got it, right? I got a few calls here and there, and they panned out to the point where I've gotten appointments, but those appointments weren't really solid because their goals were set differently, right? And so, you know, trial by error, you figure out, do I need to set an appointment, or do I need to figure out if they're worthy of an appointment, right? I don't just jump on the next call. Like I tell my ISA, I say, you know, unless they're pounding you for an appointment, I don't want you to set an appointment. I want you to call me and have me set the appointment. I need to vet them. And if they're, you know, if they're telling me no, just have them come. I like the way you're talking. Have them come tomorrow, whatever. Then tell them, fine, set the appointment. But set it up to where, and you can say this at the end, say, and Manar will reach out to you to confirm your appointment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to confirm the appointment, but I'm going to vet them.
100%.
Hey, oh yeah, you know, you guys talked about this. Can you elaborate a little bit more? Can you talk to me about that? And if I feel like the appointment is necessary, then so be it. If they didn't get, there's, in my mind, there has to be a process. There has to be like certain points that they have to hit in order for it to be legitimate. Just like our conversation right now, right? They have to hit the point of being likable, right? They have to really be interested. If they're not interested, they won't even pick up the phone as I call them back. So
100%.
that's like, you're off the table at that point. And then there's like, you know, how valid of a lead are they? Are they just talking, you know, to waste? I've been through many people's homes and they're just wasting my time.
Tire kickers,
Yeah,
right?
man.
They want the attention.
I mean, I told you my time is valuable. I'd rather, if I'm not working, I'd rather be spending it with my wife and kids, right? If I'm not in the actual business working, then I would rather not being paid for that. I'd rather go and enjoy myself. Right? That's part of work-life balance. I don't want to just be running around like a madman, just to every appointment that was set to me. So vetting was key.
I love that.
Not setting an appointment just because they want to set. And I don't pay him that way. I don't pay him just to set any appointment.
Because that's what you're going to get.
Structure. Yeah, because then that's what you're going to get.
If you incentivize, you're going to get a bunch of quote unquote, you know, appointments, people saying yes to an appointment, but because the ISA is trying to get them to say yes, regardless of their qualification. Yep. Lonely couple that wants to have somebody over is going to say yes to that, right? 100%. Right. And Manar, this is such a big point that I try to make with folks. I think this is true for all kinds of lead generation, but this is particularly true with cold outreach, that process of vetting and confirming that they are the right person and it's the right time to meet is more important than your ISA sending a bunch of appointments. That and generating the qualified seller lead, generating as many of those qualified seller leads as possible on a daily basis should trump everything. And I like to call that model shaking the tree. The ISA shakes the tree.
Yep.
And
I love the
gives
way you
you
put
those
that, by the way.
opportunities.
Yeah.
It gives you those opportunities, right? And it's your job to properly vet them, do some follow-up, and set the appointment. And I think for a lot of folks, it can seem like what are you talking about? Like if the ISA doesn't set an appointment, what do? They tee these up for you. They make the 300 calls to get the one person that you should talk to that day.
Exactly.
And so you went
That's
from
the whole
8
point.
hours. Yeah, you went from 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of calls to 5 minutes of calls, right? Because you're trying to reach out to someone that's already been at least initially qualified, that they will at least pick up the phone, right? And if they don't pick up the phone, you're right, Manar. That's also a signal, right? That's also a really good indicator that they're not that serious. They don't want to talk to anybody right now. So
or we didn't vet them the right way, you know.
When you start off that way and with that mindset, with that model in place, and you get that, because I think you got that right off the bat, then great things can happen, right? If you understand that model and you've got the skills to really get the most out of it, I think great things can happen. So you hear about us, you buy into the model, you get an ISA, and tell us what those first 30 days were like, because that's always key. I can always tell, is an ISA campaign going to be successful?
First 30 days were very. Oh, sorry, you broke up a little bit. I must have missed
those first 30 days. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, first 30 days. What were those like?
Okay, sorry, there was a little bit of a lag I noticed in our last few seconds here, but what I caught was you were asking me the last 30 days, how they're like. They're very tough, actually, and I was geared up for it. I kind of left myself open for the first, I said 2-3 weeks, you know, of really honing in on training, really bad. So because I wanted to make sure that our ISA got the process that I want him to adapt in place, as well as answer any questions that he may have. And there's plenty in the beginning of, you know, utilizing the systems, you know, the process, like I mentioned, what words to say, what words not to say, the scripts that we started off with. So to make a long story short, I honed in, as well as my partner, honed in on really, you know, getting down and dirty, meeting after meeting, after, you know, conversation and trial. And, you know, I must have probably put in somewhere between 3 to 4 hours a day, maybe, possibly just around that much time of training for the first 2 weeks alone. And then, I kind of added more things to that, right? I added, let's try this while I'm doing something else. You go and make these calls. Let's try this script, right? And honing in. So I've never had an ISA that I was, you know, the company that I hired last time, to be clear, was a company that was running their own ISA, and there was kind of their own process, and they just report back to me. I wasn't responsible for training. I wasn't responsible for looking out for them. They're not my hiree. I was paying a company, had a dedicated ISA. They're not mine, right? You know, so I didn't have to teach them any of that. But when I realized what I'm doing with you guys is, and I'm hiring and training the way I need it done. So then I had to kind of mentally prepare for that. Okay, what do I need done first in order to get this ISA rolling? So what type of things are we going to learn first? What is the process going to look like when he gets a lead, when he talks to a lead, when he sends the lead forward? You know, we communicate a lot through a WhatsApp, because it's a very fast and simple form of communication. It's like texting, right? And so, you know, I told him right from the beginning, I said, because we're, you know, very fresh, you and I are both kind of getting together on this process, and as well as my partner, by the way, is Dan Beauvais out of Top Flight Financial. He's a lender that I work with as well. We partnered together to bring this ISA in. And the wonderful thing about that is that there's two set of eyes, two set of, you know, ears, And we're both kind of helping, so if I'm busy on an appointment, he's filling in, and vice versa. So there's a lot of that. It was very, very helpful to have a partner to take on this type of burden too. Not saying it's right for everybody. Definitely have to have trust and commitment and so on. I feel that with my partner. But he's wonderful, right? He's just as committed as I am to making sure that he's off to a great start, because we don't want money wasted, right? So we're paying hourly plus, the bonuses. So if this guy's sitting around at home not doing anything, and we've got a computer lag, or we've got which we've had plenty of, right? We've had so many problems. As you know, Ring Central was giving us a huge problem.
And I want to get into that because I think that was a big insight. But little things like that, the speed with which you guys address them, and whether it was jumping on a call with a coach or fixing them on your own 100%.
Well, we had to, because it was
you paid attention. You were paying attention to what was going on, right?
We were open to all that, right? We're open to the conversations he was having. We were very attentive to the recordings. Like, I was listening in on almost every recording just to kind of see. And I'll tell you, like, I was just this morning, I grabbed my cup of coffee and I was just listening to some of the recordings that he connected with. And I'm like, man, it's been like 2 months. I'm like, man, look at this guy. Like, it's like you're growing a baby, right? I've got 2 young ones. So as they grow and they progressively, start doing new things, I'm like, wow, look at that.
Impressed.
We're raising those two. And it's kind of like what I'm doing here. I'm taking a guy that otherwise, he's not a pro at this, right? He just has had.
Had he done real estate before? Had he done real estate before your eyes?
I'm sorry?
Had they done real estate before?
Have they done real estate before? So he had some roofing stuff that he was selling himself. He was doing, I think, solar panels and things like that. Very common, by the way. All these, the real estate app that he was working for was just inbound calls, which is, as you know, it's so easy, totally different.
Very different. Very different.
But it was real estate related, which I liked, because there was still some jargon and some, conversations that he might have picked up through the months that he worked there that helped, transition him into what we're doing. But it is different. Inbound versus outbound. Prospecting is totally different. Like, they're hot, they're ready to go, they're calling you. You're just kind of, okay, which folder should I put them in? Which person should I take them to? Whereas this, you're trying to draw that out of them. Not everybody wants to talk to you, first of all, let alone answer you and give you their time. So totally different. But I lost track of what I was saying.
Yeah, no, it's that 30-day process, paying attention, listening to calls, being involved, paying attention to what they're doing. If they're running into issues, help them resolve those issues.
Yeah,
I always noticed
we were very involved in the beginning.
Yeah, the teams that don't pay attention, it just takes longer. It just takes longer to get results. It takes longer to work through some of those issues. And people can get frustrated with that waiting. And Manar, what did your ISA start calling? What walk us through that progression? Because we always recommend starting off with don't throw on the deep end of the pool at the very beginning. How did you guys progress your ISA through different scripts? Tell us about that process.
We started with circle prospecting. Circle prospecting. And the reason for that is because I knew that from doing it myself, I knew that it was an easier path to gaining confidence over the phone than jumping on a call with an expired lead that had 100 people before him call you, and before you get your words out, he's already firing away at you, right? And it's same with the physical. Another realtor, before you get that practice in, and you haven't even gotten anywhere, you're already getting chewed off the phone. And you haven't even had those conversations enough to build your confidence over the phone. So I thought to myself, if I was to start this all over again, I would go to the easiest path. And the easiest path it's simple. What's circle prospecting? It's basically calling everybody around an area, whether you sold a property, whether a house just listed in the area. You don't have to sell it yourself. Like, I devised a new script now, actually recently, of houses that have sold in a farm area that I'd like to farm, right? And it goes something like along the lines of this, hey, a new property just listed in your area for, say, $600,000. Are you aware of this? Right? And they start, oh, no, I wasn't. Should I be? Some of them, should I be? yeah, well, we just want to let you know this because sometimes people within your area can help others move in, so on and so forth. It's part of the script, but it's not saying I have a listing. It's not saying I listed and sold it. It's just saying, hey, are you aware there's something here that, it's interesting, and we can help. We can help you. We can help anybody you may know.
Gets their
Um,
attention.
yeah, it gets their attention, gets you in the conversation with them. There's some that won't talk to you,
Love it.
just like everything, and there's some that will. And we're aiming for the some that will, so he can filter through those and then send them to me, and then I can elaborate and expand. And at the end of those conversations, it's let's say they don't know anybody, right, that's looking to buy or sell. They themselves are not interested in buying and selling. Well, let me ask you this: are you interested in a free valuation of your home? It'll be sent through email, and it's no charge to you. Some of them say, yeah. Okay, great. Well, then if they're interested in that, then we've got their email, we've got their contact. It's not a short-term process, it's a long-term process, right? But you never know how long-term. One of the follow-ups that he got me, next spring they're thinking about it. I mean, we're in November no, October 31st. This is Halloween, by the way. Happy Halloween. But tomorrow is November 1st, right? A couple more months and then you're almost done with the winter and
It's
spring's around the corner.
almost now business. It's almost
So
now business, right?
we're filling the pipeline up for the future. That's the whole goal with Circle. So the reason for Circle is because, like I said, it was an easier path to get familiarized with the process, right? You get somebody interested, what do you do with them? Conversations are easier. There's less hesitation, less hostility over the phone. More people are friendly because they haven't been bombarded with a million phone calls.
True.
So we got them used to that. And then as we merged from the first week, and I started seeing the numbers, and you asked me this before, and I really didn't know how to answer you because I never really looked at the call rate or answer rate at that point in time. I didn't care. I didn't care
Contact rate.
Yeah, I cared how many conversations he was having. But I never. But if I got, if he did a couple hundred and he was getting, 20 or 30 that actually opened up and was talking to him, that's fine. I just needed him to get on the phone and get used to this, just to get used to it. So that was cool for me. But I never really honed in on the numbers until later. Later, as I seen him kind of progress and say to him, okay, what is your contact rate, right? How many calls are you making? And right, he doesn't know this, but in the beginning, he didn't know this. I said, if you're making these calls, and in the beginning, you were making, let's say 100 calls and you got like 10 people to answer. That's great. It's 10%. That's great. That's wonderful. But then you see that fell off a cliff. The next session you got into, there's something wrong.
Yeah. That is huge. And your ISA should be the first to notice that. They shouldn't have to wait for the report to go out and you notice next week, right?
And
100%.
that's why I kept pounding that. I said, no, look, how many have you talked to? I don't care what the conversation was. How many have you talked to? Right. And so when I started hearing that the answer rate was falling off a cliff over and over again, so we kept testing our number. We started implementing another process, right? You figure something out, and then you put another process in place to kind of combat that. And what was the issue? The issue was we kept getting dinged as spam likely. And that was, so I told him,
bane of my existence. It's a bane of my existence. And Manar, and this is, we're going to clip this, by the way. This is a great. So what did you guys tell us? Walk through that process. How did you tackle that? Number one, you identified it as an issue. You were constantly seeing the contact.
It was the biggest issue. Yeah. I mean, at times
teams give up on prospecting because of this issue. It can be it'd be like, hitting yourself up against a wall. How did you guys handle that?
Because the only systems that I knew were some of the ones that you kind of, you guys had mentioned. One of them was Ring Central, which is the one that we were utilizing, and even a couple other ones that I was looking at. I'm like, this isn't what we need. We need a system to help us control the number flow that we were getting, the types of numbers we were getting. Local numbers has to be a local number. That's what I never pick up an unlocal number, so I don't expect people that I call to. A non-local number, it's just, it's another advertisement. But a local number, you're more willing to pick it up. So it has to be a local number, and Ring Central had some, but then they ran out, right? You think And I learned this just as much as I think everybody else is going to learn right now. Not every phone company is created equal. Not, and I thought that there was just big pool, like everybody, Verizon, T-Mobile, all of them that just kind of went into the pool, picked a number out and said, here's a new number that's nobody's using. It's not like that. I come to figure out after doing some research on this issue that certain companies and carriers actually get a batch of numbers that they can utilize. And that batch, it's only a limited supply, and that can run out. We were running into that hurdle and that wall with Ring Central. Now, as you stated on our last conversation, maybe somebody in Canada, I'm sorry, California or something like that might not have that problem over there because they have a larger pool. They might not be running out like we were, but we were. We didn't have hardly enough. I mean, I was going through. You told me some stats like every couple hundred, and then you should kind of rotate the number out. Okay, but we're dialing somewhere between, on average in the beginning, 150 to 200 calls. And within the first 100, less than 100, we were spam likely. Because we were attentive to it, we would figure out, oh, something's wrong. We're spam likely. Sometimes I'll get the number and it's already spam likely.
That can be a huge issue because of what you mentioned. If in any particular area code, and this varies by area code, if they only have 30 numbers in that area code, you and another 50 clients are seeing 30 numbers, right? So if you're cycling through the same ones, they don't go out and buy a new one, because you want to change your number. If everyone is having the same issue, it's not going to change. You're stuck.
No, that's not. And we found that to be a problem. So I started searching for other companies. I found there's many VoIP companies out, so many good ones too, after kind of researching pluses and minuses between a lot of them. I chose a company that's been around for many years. You probably have heard of it, Vonage.
And OG Vonage, in the VoIP space. OG.
They're actually, like I said, I did some research on them. They're owned by Ericsson, which was like the original phone company. And then they merged out of there and became Vonage. First VoIP systems. Ericsson was the first to kind of develop Bluetooth technology. So it's like they've got, if they know phones, they know phones. It's that company. But I didn't choose them because they were so old. I chose them because of the amount that we're being charged was fair. Okay. And they allowed me to take control over the numbers. That was my biggest thing. Everyone I called, some companies, one company, I forget the name, and I got to get this for you. I called them. I said, so can we swap out numbers anytime we want? He says, well, why would you want to do that? And you know as well as I know, nobody's going to admit that they're calling DNC, right? 100%. So nobody's going to say it, and I didn't say it. So I said, well, I mean, we make a lot of calls, and we don't want to be pulled up as spam likely, and so and he came back with, I mean, I don't know if he's a salesman or if it was a small company and he was just the owner on the other line. I don't know. Well, we'll have to dig further into that to see, if there's some shady business. I'm not like, oh my goodness. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Probably not a good fit.
Not a good fit. If you're going to investigate me every time I have to, to pull another number out of you. My goodness. But so Vonage allowed us to kind of get multiple numbers and then pick those numbers as we please. And now the process for us has become like this, hey, you get on the phone. The very first thing you do in the morning, check with me, call me, right? Call me to verify that number is not spam likely from the day that before, all right? And if it is, we're swapping it out. And you're not just calling me, because come to figure out, here's another tip, this, it's Android versus Mac iOS, right?
100%.
Android versus iOS, it's different. My partner's got an Android. I've got, and it's on the same Verizon plan. He'll call him. It doesn't pull up spam likely. He'll call me. It pulls up spam likely because I've got an Apple phone. It's weird. And as I researched more about this, I didn't even know that they keep perfecting their algorithm to see, what does and what doesn't. So I don't know what we're talking about today could work for the next maybe few more months, and maybe there's something different out there.
Correct.
But we caught it and we changed it. And so now we check with me when we check with him to make sure it's not spam likely. And if it is, we change and then check again before we get on the phone. We'll get on the phone after so often. If we see the answer rate fall through the roof, then we check it again. Call me. Call my buddy Dan.
And it's a persistent issue. It's the reality of doing outbound prospecting in 2023. I've been doing this since 2015, and this is the number one thing that has changed between making a bunch of calls in 2015 and making a bunch of calls now. If you're not paying attention to this issue, you can dial 1,000 numbers and talk to one person. Okay, because I've seen it happen. You'll talk to one person, 5 people, 10 people, 1% contact rate. For me, that number indicates the only people brave enough to pick up a spam likely call are just curious enough to go, hey, I wonder who's spamming me today. That's the only one that's going to pick up. Not a good conversation, typically, not a good one, right? So this is a huge issue. So thanks, Manar, for kind of sharing that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you guys figured it out. You found a solution to that. You put it's a process. So I'm seeing a pattern here, Manar, where you run into issues, you solve them, and you make them part of your process. So that you're building step over step over step. You're building a system. And when you started with circle prospecting, what was the next step after that? So you started with circle, you addressed this kind of spam likely issue that you guys, ran into early on. What was the next step after that? Or did all the results you've gotten, have they been from circle?
No, circle is a long process. Circle's a long process, and it's meant to be a long process. So It's not like I was expecting much out of it. It's just, it keeps us busy.
It's not now business.
No, it's not now.
Yeah,
It's not
now.
It's like 6, 8, 10, 12 months from now,
Yeah,
but if when you need to build a pipeline, where do you start?
Yeah.
Where do you start? You start from the ground, right?
Yeah.
You start from the ground. But as we were doing that, right, just like you said, it's long-term and we're not seeing return right now, but we need to be able to see return right now as a business to keep pumping money into this, right? We need to do something that's active now. So as I mentioned, we do, my partner's a lender. So we had a list of lending leads that are super old. I think they're like a year and a half old. Okay. Put that list together, put a script together, went in and did some one-on-one with them. Like, hey, talk to me as if I'm one of these people, right? We always, anytime a new script comes out by us or by whoever's implementing the script, we're doing some one-on-one. We're doing some coaching with them.
Some role play.
Hour, 2 hours, role play, figuring out the new script. Okay, you're ready to go. Start dialing away at this. And that's what happened. So we were doing, but before that was after we did expires and for sale by owners. So we did expires and for sale by owners, right? And of course, script, role play, and then hit the road, Jack.
You didn't give them like 5 scripts at once. I think the big takeaway, right?
No, I didn't just pump them full of scripts. I had them sitting on the side. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I want to make this a point too. I knew that my ISA, right, although they're great at English and all that, there is a language barrier. There still is a language barrier, and so therefore.
Or they're not from Rochester. I mean, they're not someone from there. Like just even if they're great, but you know what? There's Southern California guy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Y'all. I mean, he says y'all a lot. I love that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, from the South, right? So
yeah, from the South. But my point is, he may not know the jargon, not know the lingo. So the more scripts I put that he internalizes, key point, that he internalizes, the better his conversations become. But if you throw too many at somebody, you're going to daze and confuse them. I work this way. I look at how I kind of operate and try to help the person in front of me because I don't learn like that. If you throw 10 things at me at once, I'm a male. I'm like this, right? I got one app. My wife has got 10 apps on. I've got one app. If I can figure that one app out, I'm a genius of that app. But so I don't want to over bombard him with things. So I threw a script at him, right? And that circle prospecting script has some key points about us and how we do work and how our listing strategy works and so on. Then when you throw another script at it, what I do is I talk about the script, we internalize the script, but then I tell him, if ever you need to go off script, remember the other script, right? Draw some of that info in. Bring some of that into this conversation because it all relates. It's all real estate related. And as we progress from one script to another, right? Now we're up to like 5 or 6 scripts. He's internalized each one of those scripts. He knows where to take a conversation now, right? He's not excellent at it. He's not perfect at it, but he's getting better day by day. And as we coach and train him, the more scripts he's internalizing. This goes for me too, right? If I start in the industry, I don't know what to say. My first few years of conversations are going to look like I'm an amateur, right?
Compared to where you are now.
Yeah, compared to where I am now. If I talk now, I know exactly what to say, right? Sometimes I don't know exactly what to say, but
close to it.
But I'm learning, right?
Yeah.
I'm learning on a daily. So I would expect that from him. So as we threw more scripts at him, I allowed him time to internalize the scripts. We did a lot of role play, but as he got more involved and more in the scripts, I allowed him the freedom. And we literally had an hour conversation about this morning, because we're doing some coaching with the company too. And I said, if the company that we've hired to coach you is telling you that the script is off like this, or you should do it this way, I said, roll with it. I'm giving him the freedom to do that. I said to him, don't just rely on what I'm saying, because I'm also learning along with you. And I'm doing that because I'm not any better than, right? I may know more, but I want the culture of my business to be, we're a team, we're helping each other out. If I help you become better, you're going to reciprocate and you're going to make my business grow. And then I'm going to help you become even better. You're going to reciprocate. It's just a spinning cycle.
100%. And it builds off of it. These are, stepping stones, right?
Yeah.
The one thing, like, I love the way you laid it out. One thing builds on top of the other. It's not a disparate, different, completely detached, script or lead source or project. No. Every piece of it makes it better and better. So you started with the circle prospecting, long-term pipeline building, getting people in there. And then you kind of switch gears over to for sale by owner and expired, which is now business. That truly is now stuff. But you didn't have them focusing, trying to set a bunch of listing appointments for you with these sellers. What was that? So number one, what made you feel you were ready to make that transition? Number one. And number two, when they're having these conversations, what did you have them do to get them to not setting the appointment, but handing them off to you? What was the cue? Was it different between a FSBO and an expired? Was it the same? Tell me about those two things. What do you think?
The cue to hand them off was interest first in the conversation, right? How much interest was built up? When I say to him, are they a valid lead? What I'm trying to, and he knows this now, what I'm saying is, have they professed interest in the conversation, and or do you see potential out of them, right? Like, he may get stuck on somebody, and this has happened. One for sale by owner did this to him recently, where the script draws from the conversation. They'll draw information. The guy was talking, so it was talkative. He was giving out information, but at the end, he couldn't close it. He couldn't, like, you want to get on the phone with my guy, right? He couldn't. He was trying to get there, and he was still new at it, so it was very hard for him to bring those words about and so on. And I listened to some of the calls, and he was like, hey, Manar, can you look at this one? Because he did say he's interested, but I was trying with him and I just couldn't. And he wasn't open to listening to what an agent had to say. Long story short, I got on the phone with him, and like 3 days later, this was my fault, because I think had I gotten to him sooner, I actually would have gotten a listing out of it.
Because they listed with somebody else.
Because he interviewed 4 agents since then, right? It was the converse, and since then we perfected. Wait, look, chalk it up as a loss, but it's also a something we've learned out of it. He learned something out of it. I learned something out of it. Chalk it up as a loss, right? But whatever. Hey, whatever. We learned, and we're moving on. But had I gotten to him sooner, it was, I just interviewed 4 other agents. I'm choosing one. And so I was like, oh, you know what? If you allow me the opportunity, let me come through. I'll show you my strategy. And I was trying to get my foot through the door, and I couldn't. He's very stubborn. So I don't think my ISA would have done any better. But had I gotten to him before the rest of them to sit down with him, I would have been a part of those, right? I think so. That's where I stumbled. And I followed up later after he chose, and he had already made his decision. So I kept following up. Kept following up, because I never knew. Like, maybe something else would have come out.
But from listening,
being persistent too.
it helps.
yeah, you know what? Why don't you come by? Because you've called me like 4 times and you're very persistent. I'll get that. I'll get that every now and then.
100%. I love that. And you were listening to those calls. So even the one wasn't sure about, he wasn't sure. Like,
Yeah.
hey, this is something, this is a me lead, right? This
Yeah.
is something you hand off to me. And
Yeah.
they're learning that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't come from any other way. There's no other way to do this.
No,
The
you just
handoff,
gotta,
the ISA to agent handoff is treacherous, man. It's not
yeah.
easy. You've
Yeah.
got to refine and give that communication, that feedback. What is a me lead and what is a your lead, right?
Yeah.
Like I love you guys. So you're laying it out right here, plain as day. Like it's not obvious at the beginning when you're talking to these a little bit more difficult kind of sellers for sell by owner expired. It's a little bit more challenging, right? You were involved. You guys listen to it together. Like, oh, this is someone. This is someone I should talk to. This is it.
This is somebody I should nurture. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he knows at this point that there's calls that he needs to nurture, and he'll put a follow up for himself and come back to it. And as they become more interested in that conversation, if they pick up once and they showed interest, and they're going to pick up again and show interest, then it's time to move them on to me. Then it's time to go for that close. And what's the close? The close is to have a conversation with me. It's not for me to come by. It's just a phone appointment. Let Manar show you how his listing strategy can better help you, right? And so that's the close. That's all I want him to do. And as he does that, maybe gets better at that, then I get a chance to get in front of them and wow them. That's what I'm good at. So
you're good at the face-to-face interaction, the conversion conversation. That's what he's handing off to you. Those are he's teeing them up. It's that layup, it's that teeing them up so you can get those at bats. Exactly. You want to get those at bats, and that's kind of the focus you're driving there. So you guys started with that circle prospecting, a few of those longer term opportunities. You moved over to expired and FSBO, got some now business.
Got some now business within the first 3-4 weeks. We've got 3 under contract.
Wow. Outstanding.
Well, two under contract, 1 soon to be. I've got an appointment tomorrow.
Love it.
And more nurtures, more follow-ups. So it's not just now business either, just from the expireds. There's some expireds that are interested, but they're not interested now. They're also follow-up. And so it could be if it's something that, where's my time best utilized? Where's my time best allocated, right? Is it a nurture lead that I need to nurture? Or is it something I send back to him and I say, keep tabs on him, put them on your calendar once a week, or whenever you feel necessary to go back into that conversation and open that back up. And if they're serious, if they're more serious, bring them back to me. And so it was helping that way, because it eliminates some of the follow-up that I have to do that might be some mundane stuff, things that I don't need to do.
You're always keeping that focus on what is the highest value activity that I should be involved in. Like it sounds like you're constantly asking that question and leveraging your ISA to take everything else that isn't that, right?
Of course.
Anything else that isn't that. I love it, Manar. We got a few minutes left. Manar, what would you say to someone, right? You've been through this process. You're 60 days in. You guys are doing phenomenal, and you're building up a pipeline for 2024. So 2024 is going to be even better. You guys are just getting started with this model.
Right.
What would you say to someone that's intimidated by this model, is not sure about it? They're good on the phone. They know how to talk to people, but they're missing that leverage. What would you say to someone like that?
If they see a need for this to be implemented into their business, don't hold off, because it's a necessity. If you look at the high rollers, the big ballers, the guys that really do business, they're all doing this. They've all got teams in-house doing this. They've all done it themselves when they were starting out.
That's huge.
They've all done it. How do you think they got so good? They didn't get in front of thousands of people in a day. It took years, took time. But if you're saying to yourself, is it worth it? Does it really work? It works. It's how you do it that is the biggest drawback or the biggest hurdle that you're going to have to, push yourself through. But look, if you've been in this industry long enough, everything is a hurdle. Every single damn thing that we've done.
There's no easy money in real estate. It doesn't exist.
No.
Not real.
So if you've been in the industry long enough, you've seen some hurdles that you thought you'd never be able to cross, but then somehow you climbed over it and you're alive still. So this is just another one of those. You can figure it out. I don't know anything about VoIP. I had no idea, man. No idea.
You're not a techie.
No, I'm not. I mean, I could figure out, Zoom and all that, but that's about it. But when it comes to like VoIP, I had no idea. And so as I searched more about it, right? Thank God for the information age nowadays. You can get on Google and figure anything out.
Love
You
it.
can do it. Anybody can. And people used to kill me over the social media stuff. Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I wasn't scared of it. I just didn't want it. I didn't want the headache. But I figured
100%.
it out. I figured it out. Imagine somebody that
Better
didn't
late
know
than never.
nothing about social media and then got into social media. I mean, it's a huge hurdle, really.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like I'm like a 60-year-old that never touched a phone, you know?
100%.
Just
100%.
like
No,
like
and
that.
you know, it's a problem, and it has a solution, right? 100%
Yeah.
has a solution. And Manar, quick question, last one here. There's a lot of agents that are concerned. It's the market. No one's buying right now. No one's selling right now. It's the recession. It's the Fed. It's this. It's that. It seems like you guys don't. I haven't heard you mention this once in all of our conversations. It's the market. You know, so what do you say to people that are concerned about that, right? Because I'm not making that up. It's a real thing. It's a real concern. I have yet to hear you mention that, even in passing, that, oh, because it's such a hard market, we had to do this. Why?
Those are all real problems. I'm not going to deny it. We face them every day. And they're all issues that pertain to the now. The right now, those are the issues, right? The Fed is hiking the rates and, war in Israel. I've heard it all and I see it all. And I keep up with all that because I need to know how it plays out because it's a mindset shift. Well, what are we good at? What are we good at in this industry? We're good at forecasting where the buyer's mind's going to be. That forecasts where the market's going to be. If I can say to you today that everybody's scared, they're less likely to buy. But there's still activity happening in the market, man. If anybody wants a good book to read, that one on your left shoulder or your right shoulder shift, that talks about the people that will stay in the industry long enough to see, the fruits of their labor, right? There's always a shift. It always goes up and down, right? Whether it's this extreme or this extreme. Yeah. So there's always going to be some kind of problem out there. You never let that kind of, get in your head that the market's dead. The market's really weak right now in terms of the number of sales. Do you want to know something? Houses are still getting higher than asking price. How are they doing that?
Boom. Like, the like facts, right? I mean, the way to tell folks is look, don't get distracted with the headline. Look at what's happening in your actual market.
Yeah.
Look what's, yes, volume is down. Great. You need to sell 8 million sides? I don't think so. There's a few more out there for you to grab and just get your unfair share as some agents retreat and hunker down, right? And stop doing what they need to do to get their share of those deals. Do it, right?
It's all a mindset shift, man. It's all a mindset
100%.
shift. It's all about
100%.
what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself it's all doom and gloom and tomorrow's the end, then you're not going to be in real estate. You're going to be in Hawaii trying to enjoy yourself because it's the end. Like I wouldn't be in real estate if I thought tomorrow's the end.
If you think you're going to win or you think you're going to lose, you're right.
Yeah.
Right?
You're right. I love
You
that.
think you're going to win, you think you're going to lose.
I love that. You are absolutely right.
The battle, is 100% in your head.
I tell my kids that.
And the one thing I tell folks, the way I like to summarize this is whoever focuses on having as many real estate focused conversations on a daily basis is not going to even know what's going on in the Fed and the interest rate and the war and this war, that war.
It all matters. It all matters, but it doesn't hinder your day-to-day operations. Look, I just want to say this, hopefully as we close off. Right now we're going through a major shift, right? Probably more than a lot of people are used to in this industry. We're going through like a large cycle, right? NAR's being sued and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that are going to be changing, and I forecast that in the future too. But that doesn't mean real estate stops.
No way.
You need to buy a home. I need to buy a home. If I need to upgrade, I need to downgrade. There's always a necessity for homes, whether we're here to make business this way or that way, it's still business, right? The Indians, if you guys can hold on, the industry is going to shrink. I believe. This is my thoughts. The industry is going to shrink. Okay. Whoever's left over is going to have a larger piece of that pie that's now shrinking, right? 100%. There is people exiting, a few years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was a fad to be a real estate agent. Like it was like there's these memes that everybody wants to be a real estate agent. I had friends that were my own friends that I was doing business with them at one point in time. They wanted to become a real estate. I go, okay, all right, no problem. Call me if you need help. I can't do nothing about it. But it was a fad, and now, well, like, how are you surviving? Whew, where are you getting your leads from? If I tell them what I'm doing,
secret? What's the secret
what's your
sauce?
Yeah,
Crazy.
it is a crazy market. Because there's so many uncertainties, but there's still activity, and the ones that kind of stick around and work and keep going hard at this every single day. I'm a full-time agent, full-time broker, and we don't stop. We don't stop learning. We don't stop growing. And what I like to say is when we find a hurdle, we're looking for those hurdles to step over. We're not just avoiding them. We're looking
100%.
for, where's the next hurdle? Because if I step over that, I know there's a greener pasture at the other side.
I love it. I love it. And you mentioned this book over here. The guy that wrote that book said that whoever was going to survive that shift, hold on, right, and navigate the turbulent waters was going to grab more market share. And the guy that wrote that book, his company became the #1 company in real estate in the U.S.
Keller Williams.
From 2008 to 2010.
Yeah.
I mean, what better example do you want?
Yep,
what better example do you want? So I love it. Manar, man, this has been pure joy. Love this conversation.
Likewise. Thanks, man.
I love the
Thanks for having me.
thoughtfulness you put into the process. They really, very intentional with what you do.
I just
love it.
I want to say we couldn't have done it without you, because had I not found you or your company, we wouldn't be able to implement some of the thoughts that we've had to implement. And I got to say, your support and your staff, A1 to all of you, Luis that trained, Florencia that helped, yourself that, you get on these coaching calls with us, and it's like gold when you speak, because some of the stuff, nobody's asking. And then when you're bringing it out, I don't even have to ask. It's already being talked about. So
100%.
they're all key points that everybody has to kind of listen to and hone in on in order to perfect their game. But it takes a certain somebody that's going to utilize that knowledge and put it in action. And I think that's what you're doing here. You're trying to get as many people, you get as many people as you can to take action, because you've got the right idea and you've got the right process, and you're giving them a chance by being able to implement this in a very, very cost efficient way. Very cost efficient, like not even a third of the cost. Okay. If people don't understand this, go figure it out.
Yeah, run the numbers.
Go run the numbers yourself. Hire somebody.
Hourly,
see what the heck is going to cost you.
It's not comparable, right?
Yep.
Not even the same ballpark. Yep. So Manar, I appreciate your kind words, man. Thank you so much. I'm gonna give a shout out to the team. Man. I'm gonna let them know. Hey, guess what? Manar says hi to everybody. Right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. All right, anytime. Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.